This is on a video on if Muhammad Ali rematched George Foreman. And by the way, the fight would have taken place around the time Muhammad Ali fought Ernie Shavers, which is in 1977, just the end of 1977, because that's when George Foreman was fighting Jimmy Young at the start of 1977. So that's when the rematch would have taken place. Obviously, he lost the fight against Jimmy Young, and he just couldn't go on to fight Muhammad Ali. Would never have got the title shot. Now, I want to talk a little bit about first about the Rumble in the Jungle, because a lot of people will be saying that George Foreman would have wised up to what Ali's tactics were in the Rumble of the Jungle. He wouldn't let Ali stay on the ropes because the ropes would be tightened, and Ali would have to. He wouldn't be able to use the same tactics, and George Foreman would just take his time, choose his punches a bit better, and eventually wear Ali down and knock him out. Now, Muhammad Ali did not pre-plan to use the rope-a-dope in the fight, despite popular belief. It's actually a lot more interesting than that. What happened was, Muhammad Ali said he was going to fight George Foreman, and he told everyone how he was going to fight him. He was going to stay at a distance, use his quick punches, just stay away from him so he wouldn't take any hard blows. Now, he also told people behind the scenes that what he was going to do is the first round he was going to go in with his straight right punches, leading right punches, and hit George Foreman to wake him up, let him know he's in a fight, let him know that Muhammad Ali does pose a punching threat. He didn't tell the news reporters that, but he told his team behind the scenes that's what he was going to do, and he's going to stay away from George Foreman and dance. Now, when Muhammad Ali got in the ring, after the first round, Muhammad Ali noticed two things. One of them was that the canvas, was soft. It was really soft from the temperature, because this was a fight in Africa, and it was really warm at this time of night, and it was really soft. Now, this messed up Muhammad Ali's plans because he couldn't dance around for 12 rounds on a soft canvas because it would wear out his calves after 2 or 3 rounds. This is what he says in his autobiography, his book. And he also noticed another thing was the ropes were loose because of the heat. The ropes were loose, and he could stay back and lean away from George Foreman's punches. So he completely changed his tactics, and obviously you can hear his team in the corner, thinking, well, he's not doing what we planned to do at all. He's laying against the ropes. And this was because Muhammad Ali was smart, he was versatile, and he managed to adapt and change his tactics just after that one round, just thinking for that one round that, the canvas is too soft, I can't dance, I'm going to wear myself out, I'm getting knocked out. But the ropes that's a new thing, that's a new advantage. So that's what he did, and he won the fight that way. Now, you obviously can't do that in the rematch. The rematch would probably take place in America. George Foreman would make sure the ropes were completely tight. So say the rematch happened 6 months after the Rumble in the Jungle. Now, 6 months after, Muhammad Ali's just equally as good as he was in the Rumble in the Jungle. He can still dance like his original tactics were, and he still has the reflexes. He still can throw the clean, sharp punches that land on target, really accurate punches, and he can do everything he did in the Rumble in the Jungle, bar going against the ropes. And I think if the rematch happened 6 months after the original Rumble in the Jungle, that Ali would actually beat George Foreman. Still, he would just stay away from him, dance, and yeah, probably would get caught against the ropes and take some punishing blows. But Muhammad Ali does have a solid body that can take punishment and a solid chin. That's one of his main advantages when he came back in the 1970s. And he was also an effective counterpuncher. So he was really good. He could, I think, 6 months after, even with George Foreman, changing his tactics, pacing himself, I think Muhammad Ali would probably sneak a unanimous decision win over George Foreman. I think it would still be a close fight. For those who don't know, that it wasn't such. It was still quite a close fight in the Rumble in the Jungle. I think it was 5 rounds Muhammad Ali, 2 rounds George Foreman, and if the 8th round did pass, that would have been 6 rounds to Ali, including the round he knocked him out in, and 2 rounds to George Foreman. So he wasn't completely dominating George Foreman, but he was definitely outscoring him and using the tactics he was originally going to use in Rumble in the Jungle. If the canvas was solid, the ropes weren't tight, Ali would still pose George Foreman a lot of problems. But I think if the fight actually went on and took place when it was supposed to take place in 1977 at the end, well, Muhammad Ali had lost a lot of his ability for what he had to Rumble in the Jungle by then. Ali wore his body out quite quickly because of his sparring sessions. He would like to take punishment in the sparring sessions, which obviously everyone realises was a bad idea now. Damaged his kidneys. It took its toll on his body. He probably lost his reflexes and his accuracy a lot quicker because of the punishment he was taking in the sparring sessions. Because I know you've got the fights, and he's taken unnecessary punishment in these fights as well. But he was also doing it in sparring, and he was getting hit a lot more in sparring than he was actually doing in the fights. So this all took its toll on Ali, and by the time, he fought Jimmy Young. Yeah, I had him beating Jimmy Young by 2 rounds, because some people think that's a controversial fight, and Jimmy Young actually beat Ali. But I've scored that, and I have Ali winning it by 2 rounds. But in the Ernie Shavers fight, George Foreman, okay, Ali, when you read his books, he says Sonny Liston was the scariest of the opponents. Ken Norton was the most awkward. Joe Frazier was the toughest and most determined. And George Foreman was by far the hardest puncher. Doesn't say Ernie Shavers was the hardest puncher. A lot of people try and say Ernie Shavers was the biggest puncher in the 1970s. He wasn't. It was George Foreman. And Ali said that himself, and he's been in with both of them, that George Foreman was the hardest puncher. Now, when Ali fought Ernie Shavers, which is when he would have fought George Foreman, Ernie Shavers hurt him bad. I can't remember which round it was. I've not watched the fight since the start of this year, but I think it was in the earlier rounds, and it was a really, really close fight with Ernie Shavers. He could have scored that fight either way. I actually have Ernie Shavers winning that fight, I've got to admit. But it can be scored either way. It was a tough fight to call. And the thing you have to remember is George Foreman can punch a lot harder than Ernie Shavers. Taller than Ernie Shavers. He's an inch taller than Muhammad Ali. At 6'3", has an inch longer reach than Muhammad Ali at 78.5 inches. Another thing you need to take into consideration is George Foreman had got a lot bigger and a lot more muscular. In the Rumble in the Jungle, he was 220 pounds and still quite big and strong. But if he fought him in the rematch, when he was fighting Jimmy Young and everything, he was 230 pounds. He was huge. He was stronger. And if the younger Ali, say in 1975, fought him, I think Ali would still win. But Ali at end of 1977, I can't see him pulling off a unanimous decision, or being able to stay away from his power punches. So I have George Foreman winning the rematch.